And now I have the pleasure and the honor to introduce to all of you a dear friend and colleague of mine, Jessica Pastor, that she's gonna share during this workshop, design thinking for changing times. And Jessica, please enlighten us. How are you doing? No, we cannot hear you. You're muted.
Here we go. Hi.
Hey.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Can you hear me well?
Yeah, now I hear you. They are all yours.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Maica. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, AWE, Heroikka, and Women Impact Summit for inviting me. It's such a pleasure. You know, I have an unconditional love to everything you guys do. So today I will be walking you through the design thinking process that can help us navigate these uncertain and crazy times. During the next 20 minutes or so, I will be walking you through the process and providing practical examples on how and some certain tips that you can follow. This is a quick index on the things that we will be covering. We heard a lot from Lisa, from CISA, about design thinking, but what is it exactly? We will also talk about creativity as a tool to navigate ambiguity. I will give you 3 top qualities that a creative leader should have, some examples and a little bit about the process. And then I will introduce something called the anti-fragile. And at the end will be just a quick recap. So I know this is a lot to take. It's design thinking in steroids. So please just feel free to reach out. So before I start, I would like to give you a little bit of context about myself and what I do for a living. For those who don't know what an industrial designer does, I became an independent designer over a year ago. Aero is one of my main clients. We designed this type of new airline where folks can fly in a semi-private style with only 16 passengers. And we decided to launch this airline on the middle of the pandemic. So lots of learnings. Turns out that there is a terrible time to be a big carrier like American Airlines or United, but it is a perfect to form a new type of airline and as mighty as Aero is. Before Aero, I used to work on a very wide range of projects and challenges, from Boeing interiors to smart window systems that have light and act as a lighting fixture at night, far-fetched cars that drive themselves and they're electric and so on, to a first mass-produced smart jacket for Levi's and Google. A voting booth also that was making voting accessible for, to everyone, and so on. And you may think, well, all these projects have nothing in common. If it wasn't because what all these projects have is that they require to get a deep understanding behind the user's needs. So that is exactly what design thinking is about. It is not an exclusive property of designers. All great innovators in literature, art, music, science, engineering, business have practiced it. So why do we call it design thinking? What's special about this process is that we as designers work with processes that can help everyone systematically extract, teach, learn, and apply all these human-centered techniques to solve problems in a creative way. In our businesses, for our countries, or for our lives. So this is the definition of design thinking itself. Has a human center at its core and encourages organizations to focus on the person or the people they are creating for instead of only on the business. So next time you sit down to create a solution for a business need, the very first question you should always ask is, what's the human need behind it? And this is how I will summarize how it looks, how the process looks. It's very messy and it's a wild ride and very noisy. And the research, it's very dense. You probably have to navigate uncertainty, understand the client needs, understand the user needs, and slowly brush those things until you start concepting, you prototype, and finally you get the clarity and the focus of your design. So the ability to navigate ambiguity and to guide people and organizations without knowing what's ahead, it is a key leadership quality of our time. Because in today's world, almost nothing is certain, and technological change is drastic and rapid. Volatility grips politics and the economy, and the future of healthcare and education are in question. So as much as we would like to have one quick solution and fix for everything, the reality is that solutions are a moving target, and no leader possesses silver bullet. But creativity can help. So according to the World Economic Forum, creativity is among the top 3 skills needed to thrive in 2020, along with other capabilities infused with the human touch, like complex problem solving and critical thinking. So in a world where challenges have no magic solution, leaders must get comfortable with not having an answer and lean towards the unknown, and establishing leadership styles that incorporate many perspectives, sustain optimism, and perseveres through ambiguity. So I will leave you some of these books that I recommend. Some of them are this creative confidence. It's from Tom Kelly and David Kelly, who were the founders of the company I had the pleasure to work for at IDEO. We call this approach creative leadership, right? And the term is very well known in academic circles, but only recently has gained some traction. So creative leaders take conditions that are anxiety provoking for many and turn them into opportunities. Now we are seeing that creative leaders can spark change in any industry or any team, from manufacturing to marketing, finance, or food. So really applicable to every discipline and every industry. So what are those qualities that equip leaders to leverage ambiguity and drive progress? How do they show up to their daily work and push their companies forward? The very first characteristic is that a creative leader convenes diverse groups and rallies them around tangible goals. So we have to remember that no one single point of view will hold the answer to a complex problem. For instance, at IDEO, only multidisciplinary teams will group. Like a medical doctor, an engineer, and a UX designer may be the perfect combo for to answer complex problems for a healthcare client. The second will be that curiosity, it's at the core of creativity. So creative leaders navigate ambiguity with curiosity. So as designers, we have to defer judgment constantly and often forget what we know, and all those preconceived notions, leave them aside to learn new ways of thinking in the world. That's why traveling is so important. So staying positive. The third one is that creative leaders have to be always optimistic and fiercely optimistic and maintain that momentum. So, but staying positive doesn't mean that you have to be happy all the time. That's not what I mean here. It means that even during hard days, you know that there are better ones ahead. And here they are, the 3 key tactics that creative leaders should employ. As we say, the first one is to build diverse and multidisciplinary teams to maximize those perspectives. The second is to navigate ambiguity with bold ideas. And the third one is to maintain that forward momentum with empathy and inspiration. And you may say, okay, Jessica, this all sounds lovely, but we are in the middle of a pandemic. And how can we apply all these concepts to it? Well, I'm here to remind you that we already went through this, and that, that we should learn from it. That's it. I don't know if you can see these images of all these kids in the school. And if you can look closer, I don't know if you will notice anything odd, but in 1932, around all main European cities, from Paris to Birmingham, Amsterdam, and Berlin, schools had huge windows or even these collapsible walls. They were known as open air schools or schools anti-tuberculosis. They were designed to protect towards infectious disease like tuberculosis itself. So institutions especially designed these to fight a pandemic that was brutal during the 19th century and beginning of the 20th century. So for decades, the only thing we knew about the tuberculosis is that the bacteria was infectious, that could survive in dark and dusty spots, and that sun, open air, and rest were the cure for the patients. So, sorry. Here you can see this screen. So this is why design thinking was helpful. And you can see here Le Corbusier and all famous architects and designers from this era started designing houses and hospitals with very big windows, and sanatoriums with terraces and aerodynamic furniture where dust will not gather, will not settle. So eventually this is how modern architecture was born. And I think this is a great example on how, since always, pandemics shape our cities. This is an image from a sanatorium in Finland. And when we understood better the virus, the focus switched towards understanding that the houses were the ones that were quote unquote sick. So architects start applying these new principles and applying these aseptic colors and these forms, designing towards open spaces, and architecture suddenly became an instrument of healing. So hopefully you can see how powerful this is. Another great example for today's situation, today's pandemic, is that this image here is from a post-COVID neighborhood. It is already under construction in China, and it was designed by a Spaniard. His name is Vicente Guayart, and it is a self-sufficient neighborhood. There will be laboratories ready to generate anything or everything we need, from face masks to food or energy. So we don't need to even leave our communities and our neighborhoods. So it's a great example on how design thinking was applied and moved forward to something better. So I want you to remember after all this, that this scribble and this messy process, it's not linear, and that the struggle is part of the process. And putting it in a better way, this is how the process should look like. I want you to understand that it's a circular process, and then you can always come back to get some feedback from a previous phase. So if we go from the outer circle to the inner circle, the very first phase is to understand what the issue that we are trying to address. Then the second will be to explore and then materialize. So if we go to the very first step, is to conduct the research, and empathy is a very big part of this phase. From there, we move to define the problem and observe where our user problems exist. Then we move to the ideation part and generate crazy and diverse ideas. So we go for quantity and not quality. We move towards prototyping and build physical, some tactile representation of what our concepts will be. And then from there, we move to test. And if we need to return to redefine, we go to redefine, move forward to ideate and prototype again and test, okay? And then from there, the last phase will be to implement it. Now that we know a little bit about design thinking, I wanted you to introduce a new concept that is called the anti-fragile. So I would like to propose this new, fresh attitude that will help us navigate these turbulent times. So the anti-fragile as an attitude will help us embark into what design thinking is about with fresh eyes. So anti-fragility is beyond resilience or robustness. The resilient resists shocks and stays the same, but the anti-fragile gets better. So this is a concept that Nassim Taleb developed, and that this attitude is applied by one of my favorite designers. Her name is Patricia Urquiola. She's originally from Galicia, and she has a very explosive personality, and she established herself in Milan many years ago. It's very well acclaimed by the entire industry. And she states that in life, big obstacles and issues are the ones that create and allow us to develop harmonious flows. So that's the translation of this Spanish phrase, our Spanish quote I put here. Here's the book that Taleb has, and I highly recommend it to you too. So Patricia believes that this is the perfect moment to become anti-fragile. It's the perfect opportunity to put this in practice. And the idea is that the robust person, as we explained before, always absorbs the shock and stays exactly as is. But on the other hand, the anti-fragile person gets nourished and grows to improve through the chaos. It is during these periods of difficult times when we must have an attitude where we are beyond resilient and take that inertia of the moment to modify, grow, and evolve with this intention. So this is the end of the presentation. I just wanted to put a quick recap of what I covered. A future leader and is a creative leader. So remember that a creative leader is not, it doesn't avoid change. It's about turning vulnerability and complexity into assets and even leveraging them as tools for speed. So while it can be unsettling to dive headfirst into the unknown, modern leaders must build the creative confidence needed to navigate uncertain times with and for their teams. So their agility and positive look generates a feedback loop that keeps everyone moving forward with a sense of possibility about what's to come and how they can shape it. So with a creative leader, an ambiguous and a messy situation can be the perfect moment for a change, and it will help the organization take a future and push it forward. So I wanted to thank IDEO, the university from IDEO Online, and also the graphics from Amrita Marino and Sunny Yazdani. Thank you for all the support, and please don't be a stranger. Feel free to ping me, shoot me a line on my email or on LinkedIn. I will be happy to support or help. Thank you.
Jessica, thank you so much for enlightening us and for this awesome presentation. I know now that the key word from this year is anti-fragile, and we're gonna get it tattooed in the back of our head. Thank you so much.
I think if we have a few minutes for any questions, or we can also leave it to the chat. However, you
we
think
have 3 minutes. Any good questions here?
Yes. Okay, it seems like Nivedita has a question.
Yeah.
Yes. How to generate ideas? Is that a question Well, how to generate ideas, it's something that you can always start with a brainstorming. As I was mentioning previously, it's very important to gather the right people around the table and always try to get as many perspectives as possible. So it's something that no one has the answer for a complex problem. So it's very important to get different perspectives, different points of view, a multidisciplinary team, and then from there you brainstorm ideas. That's another chapter. I will be more than happy to help you if you need some links on how to proceed with the brainstorming. It's something that it's important to do it right, so you get something out of it. Mm-hmm.
Great, Jessica.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna go on a break. Thank you so much.
Of course, my pleasure.
And we're gonna post all your information also on the website. You can leave it also on the chat. And we will be back in 10 minutes.